Hi, this video is going to be about how to carry a child who has had some kind of surgery that prevents them from having any pressure on their stomach or groin area. So this is Hannah and Corbin.
Hi.
And can you tell them a little bit about Corbin?
So Corbin had a surgery that had some restrictions from being able to carry him in a traditional way. As we all know, having the option to be able to carry him can be a big comfort, especially if you've got a child that has a lot of medical needs, maybe needs to be in a hospital or go to doctor's appointments. So we kind of had to modify some carries to make that possible for him. So this is a great carry to be able to access, for example, so if your child maybe hasn't had surgery, but maybe is in the hospital and has IV lines or has some cardiac monitoring or just needs access to the chest area, the pelvic region, maybe even the legs, this might be a great option for you, especially as we all know and as I have learned from Corbin being in the hospital, there's nothing worse than them wanting to be held, but having the restriction of being able to wear them, so you get some tired arms usually by day number 2. So this might be a great option for you, and we're going to show you a carry that Corbin's surgeon has approved, but as always, make sure that your doctor sees this before you should try it to make sure that it's appropriate for your child and their needs.
All right, so this video is assuming that you already know how to do either a ring sling or a rebozo cradle carry. So we'll link, whenever we post this, we'll link videos that explain how to do those types of carries. But in this video, I'm not going to explain the basics of how to do those carries. I'm going to explain how to modify that carry for this particular case. So I'm assuming that you already know, and if you don't, go to a baby wearing meeting or email me or watch a video so that you know how. So this is a rebozo. Later Hannah is going to use a ring sling, but these same principles apply. So you've got a pocket, and you've got something on your shoulder that's kind of spreadable, and you want to get your child into this pocket in a way that isn't going to agitate anything on their fronts. And the only thing you can really do to achieve that is going to be a cradle carry. But we usually only do cradle carries on very small babies. So doing a cradle carry with a larger kid can be complicated. So if my almost 2-year-old will allow me, I'm going to attempt to do it with her now, and if she doesn't, I have a doll as a backup. But just the logistics of getting such a huge kid in a cradle carry and making it comfortable is already complicated. But then once I get her in there, I'll show you why the cradle carry is really kind of useful in the situation where you need to keep anywhere between the stomach and the groin or the chest uncovered. So, hey Cassie, can I put you up? Can I put you in the bozo? Yeah? Can we put that down for 1 minute? Thank you very much. All right. She claims she's willing. Okay, so when Hannah does this with Corbin, you'll see that things get more delicate when you can't do what I'm doing right here, right? You can't put your child on your hip. So there's this kind of delicate process of getting a larger child into the pocket that she's going to show you, but for now I'm just going to show you how you want it to fit. Okay, so you could do a cradle carry either way with the head in either direction. Now if I were trying to avoid touching her pelvis, I could sort of just drop her in like this. So I'm not touching anything on the front, nothing's touching anything on the front. I'm basically putting her in a check mark position and I'm keeping her there. And then I'm just pulling the wrap up around her. And because she's a big kid, her feet want to stick out, so you kind of have to be careful that you either adjust it so that that's working for you, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm pulling the side of the wrap up and around, and usually a cradle carry is going to be legs in, so that's kind of important. You need to kind of do a legs out modification. My child is like 19 feet tall, so she would never stand for being legs in. Okay, so you'll see that her body has that same classic check mark position that we're going for in a cradle carry. Her knees are up, she's reasonably comfortable She's got some slack on top that I'm going to feed around and tighten. Again, if you're not comfortable or you're not sure how to tighten slack, you probably want to be learning to do the basics of a cradle carry before you go into trying to do an advanced application of it. So this is definitely a special modification for somebody who's already experienced with the carry. Okay, so you can see that I'm snugging up the fabric, and now Cassie is able to sit up. Now, another thing that is important to point out is that you can see up into all of the areas that we're worried about. You can see, for example, that Cassie's playing with her belly button, right? So you can see everything. You can reach, I can reach all the way through here, which means a doctor, if I'm in a hospital, can access everything with no problem. So this was part of why Corbin's surgeon got so excited about this carry, is that although it is eventually, once you get it snug enough, which I'm doing with my rebozo right now, hands-free, and if you spread it across your shoulder, reasonably comfortable, even if your kid is ginormous like mine. You can see in through the top. Hold on, I'm trying to see. Yep, you can see in through the top, you can see in through the side, and you don't have to use either hand. So let's try it now with Corbin so that you can see some of the intricacies of how getting him in there is kind of a delicate process. But what we're going for here is this check mark position. Legs can't be in, so there's a modification there, which means you have to do extra tightening on the bottom rail to make that work out and be secure. See, I can bounce her around, no problem. And of course, you want to do it in a way where the whatever part is sensitive from surgery or having sensors on it or whatever is not injured.
Okay, so we're going to show you kind of the same sort of thing, but with a ring sling. And this ring sling, Corbin and I have been using quite a bit since his procedure, so it's already tightened to the correct tightness that makes him comfortable and me comfortable. So, you know, you'll have to play around with it a little bit, but since he's a little bit cranky, we won't loosen it and show you that process. We'll
We'll again assume that you know how to use a ring
right.
sling and that this is a kind of a special modification.
So, if he had cardiac monitoring on, which he did have in a hospital, what I would request is, and again, this is was allowed by his surgeon, so of course ask your doctor, your surgeon, or your nurse, whoever would be appropriate, if that's okay. But if he were in the hospital and still had that cardiac monitoring going on, what works for us is we would just take those leads off briefly till we got him in and re-hooked him up. That may or may not be okay for you. Of course, check with your doctor. If that doesn't work, what I would suggest is having a second person feed those leads behind you. So have a nurse working behind you with the leads coming this way to feed those
so just
in.
Holding them here
right.
and giving a little bit of slack so that you
right.
can maneuver.
Right. And the other thing, so if he still had his IV in, so he's had an IV in his foot, he's had an IV in his arm, same type of concept. You want to end up with the IV line closest to you, so it's got to be inside the sling. So you want to feed that into the sling as you're working, so that's going to require probably somebody else. And I would suggest if you're in a hospital setting, maybe have that be a medical provider that is kind of aware of if an alarm goes off or something like that, because that tends to happen for us if it kind of gets kinked for a minute. So I'm going to show you how we would do this. Of course, Corbin's not hooked up to anything right now. Very similar to Acacia, so I'm being very aware to be gentle in this area. So we're going to get him up as high as we can because he's another tall kiddo. And we're going to bend up his legs because there's no restriction for him with his legs. And again, if you need somebody else, that can be helpful until you kind of really get pretty good at it. So I feed one leg through.
I can help here and kind of
same thing.
Down.
I find bending his little leg, feeding it through.
There you go.
And then I'm going to just pull this up. Again, there's no pressure with with Corbin's procedure on that area that is sensitive. So next, I'm going to just kind of rotate him. And I want to make sure that I'm always supporting him until we get the ring sling in correctly. I want to make sure I'm appropriately supporting him and adjusting to make sure that he's got a good seat. And I want to spread this over my shoulder to make sure it's comfortable. So I might bounce him up a little bit.
Which he probably thinks is pretty fun.
Yeah. And so it's that easy. So he's now in a carry that's safe for him to be in. As you can see, same thing. We've got full access to his chest. So if he had those, and he's waving hi to you. So if he had that cardiac monitoring still going on, that would be fine. We've got easy access to all his leads. If he still had that IV line in, that would be fine. And if you're anything like me and you go crazy when you're in a hospital room for so long, and he does too, you could very easily, again, if it's allowable by your doctor, if he's got an IV in, you could have the IV pull and you could be walking down the hallway with him. So this is what we found, of course, that our surgeon said was okay, and as always, make sure you check with your doctor. So again, you can see all of his easy access to everything here. When we go to doctor's appointments, he actually can just stay in this for most of the appointment until they need to check the surgical site, so they can listen to his heart, front, back, no issues, and then they're able to easily pop him out, check the surgical site. I can pop him back in and calm him down or soothe him. So that's about all.
So one thing that you guys may have noticed by looking at this is that when Hannah does it, she keeps the top rail a little looser than I did, and when I was trying to show you the easy access through my rebozo, I almost couldn't because it was a little too snug. So, you know, while she can take both hands off of Corbin, you probably want to carefully monitor, because this top rail is just a little looser than it would be if we were doing something for long-term use. He could, if he really wanted to flop out the back, it might not be totally secure, but we're doing that on purpose because we want to leave easy access to all of the places that a doctor might need to see. And in fact, if you see the pictures that I posted initially on the thread where we're going to post this, I had her looser so that you could really see everything. So if a kid really did, you know, wriggle and try and get away, the top rail, you want to be paying attention to that just in case. But it is reasonably secure, and you can be hands-free, so it is a big help, right?
Yep, and I usually keep a hand back here anyway, just because of comfort. When you've got a bigger kid like this, it's hard to really maneuver this arm around, so just it naturally ends up kind of being an extra support for him anyway. And I also find, so the other tip that I have personally, and I'll also do whatever's comfortable and safe for you, this back arm, if it's kind of tucked behind my side and underneath my arm, tends to be most comfortable. Sometimes, like he's doing right now, he tries to pop that forward and it rotates him out.
Right, and then it hurts your back because they're leaning.
Yeah, so I just try and pop that, make sure that that's back in, and he's typically fine with that.
Now, one last thing I will say is that if you are using a ring sling, that I would recommend you use something with a gathered shoulder or a hybrid pleat shoulder like Hannah is using. A pleated shoulder is going to be more kind of gathered together and might be more likely to dig and be less comfortable with a bigger kid. So if you have, when I had Cassie up, you know, she's 25 pounds, you really need a spread shoulder for that. So you want a ring sling that allows for that if you're going to use a ring sling. A rebozo carrier will let you do that however you like. So that's about it. We hope that this was helpful. As we've said probably 15 times, but we'll say one more time, don't do anything without showing this video or pictures that we give accompanying this video to a doctor and having your doctor approve it. And we hope people enjoyed. This is BWI of Cleveland. I'm Acacia. This is Hannah, and we are out.